remember Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, came out in 1960. That was a film that really blew people away. Nobody in that decade ever saw a film like that ever. That was a film that was very ahead of its time. Now, in the late 70s with and early 80s, with the horror film franchise pretty much in its high note, with such horror films as film series as Halloween and Friday the 13th, I guess the studio thought a Psycho sequel would be good. Actually, there was a Psycho 2 sequel written by Robert Bloch, but it's totally unrelated to what this movie is. And I'm sure a lot of fans thought, oh, this is just a silly cash grab. We know who the killer is. We know how it ended. Okay, if you don't know how the first Psycho ended, I suggest you don't watch what I'm about to say here, because I'm going to be giving away a little bit of a spoiler here. Throughout most of the film, you're supposed to think it's an old Norman's mother doing the killing, but then it was really Norman dressed up as his mother, killing people, and he had this Jekyll and Hyde personality, like he was his mother, became his mother's personality and all that. And let's not forget the shower scene that pretty much made people jump. It's 22 years later, and Norman has been judged sane and able to re-enter society, and they move him. He moves back to his old house. Here's what I don't get: why move him back to his old house where all the craziness started? Thought the good point is to move him away from that place and bring him to a new town, but we wouldn't have a movie if that happened. Norman gets a job. Gets a job at a diner and wants to reopen his motel, and this time start a decent business. But things start occurring again. Someone starts leaving notes saying that about his mother, saying that they're his mother and all that, and someone's walking around dressed up, looking like his mother from a distance, and you're left wondering, is Norman going crazy, or is someone playing horrible tricks on him? Well, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I'm not going to give anything away. I gotta say, this movie was every bit as good as the original. There are sequels that become a cash grab and try to be loose imitations of the first film, but Psycho 2 doesn't do that. Don't get me wrong, there are some callbacks to the original, but the movie does stand on its own pretty well. Anthony Perkins was good as Norman. He plays it many different ways, plays it sympathetic and the man trying to hold on to his sanity, and then some parts he could just play a very creepy edge to it. Meg Tilly was good as Mary, who befriends Norman. You're thinking, well, I'm not going to give much away about her character, but you gotta say you think she's going to be a one-noted character, but then she proves she could be very layered too. Vera Miles was good as Lila, reprising her role from the first film, who has a secret vendetta against Norman. Of course, you know what he did in the first film to her sister. I also like Robert Loggia as Dr. Raymond. He really shows that he's not just he's a psychiatrist, but he checks in on Norman because he's more like, he doesn't play it like a doctor checking in on a patient. He plays it more like he's a concerned friend. He doesn't like what bad people are doing to him. I like the way the movie, just when you think the movie's going to be predictable and you think you know where it's going, it throws you through so many loops. Like, you're like, what the heck is going on here? How's this really going down? I gotta say the suspense was good. It is a little bit bloodier than the first film. I mean, of course it's the 80s. They have to go a little bloodier because they think this decade, that sells. A well-written screenplay by Tom Holland, who you probably know also wrote and directed Fright Night in 1985, and I remember the sequels that followed, like Psycho 3 was Yeah. Psycho 4 was a little bit better because well, I'm not gonna say what Psycho 4 is. Of course, there was that awful remake starring Vince Vaughn, and the Bates Motel starring Vera Miles, which was I never really. What am I saying? I never actually saw it. I saw bits and pieces really. Psycho 2 is a good film. It doesn't. It's not tries to be as predictable as it seems. It's a standalone sequel that there are a few callbacks to the original, but this sequel really stands on its own. I mean, I like I like I like the way Norman Bates is portrayed. Is you don't know whether to be scared of him or you. At the same time, you look like you just want to give him a hug. Like he doesn't mean to do the horrible things that he does. So I'll give Psycho 2 a 10 out of 10. Bye bye.